No DQ Galaxy. We are live with the NoDQ.com recap of AEW Dynamite for Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022. This was the go-home edition of Dynamite for Revolution, which is this coming Sunday, live on pay-per-view. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. I appreciate your viewership and support as always. We kicked off Dynamite with something rare. The president, AEW President Tony Khan, in the ring with Tony Schiavone. I believe only the second time that Tony Khan has been in the ring on a Dynamite. We have seen him a few times in the backstage area. So it's a rare thing for Tony Khan to be out there in front of the fans, and he got right to the point. Tony Khan, over the past week or so, has been hyping up a huge announcement that he said would change the wrestling business. That announcement is he is the new owner of Ring of Honor Wrestling. That's right. Tony Khan has purchased ROH. He will be acquiring the tape library, the intellectual property, and so forth. Pretty big deal here. Now, some people thought that there was going to be the announcement of maybe a streaming deal with HBO Max. That was something that was rumored, and that might still happen. This could be the start of that. AEW picking up a significant tape library, and they could be using that for a future streaming service. I saw a few comments about maybe some kind of interpromotional thing. I'm not sure if that would really make much of a difference. And let's face it here. Ring of Honor, more or less a dead brand. They pretty much went out of business and released everybody. Tony Khan coming in, buying the company, sort of like WCW being sold to WWE. I think the biggest value with Ring of Honor is obviously the tape library, with a lot of guys in AEW getting their start in Ring of Honor. That footage can be very useful for future documentaries and, of course, like I said, a potential streaming service in the future. Walter Cruz sent in a $2 super chat, says, will he make a network with the library? Well, again, I think it's going to come down to trying to make something happen with a streaming service like HBO Max. AEW, obviously, a very young company, only 3 years old, but with the Ring of Honor tape library, all of a sudden, you have a lot of wrestling footage at your disposal. And Jose Garza brought up a possible third show. That I'm not so sure about. Does Ring of Honor become AEW's NXT? I could see that as a possibility. Maybe you get rid of Dark and Elevation and just make the third show Ring of Honor and make that AEW's developmental league. Robert with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Robert. I appreciate it. Says, now that AEW has Ring of Honor, does this mean WWE buys Impact? I know some people are surprised because they thought it would be WWE to buy out Ring of Honor and get that tape library, but instead, Tony Khan gets it. That remains to be seen. Impact Wrestling, there's a lot of footage there, but they're still running shows, and they just keep going. So we'll have to see on that one. Impact Wrestling, if AEW could pick up that tape library at some point, that would be pretty significant, because you're talking about Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, pretty much the bulk of the non-WWE content out there. And then, you could say promotions like PWG one day being bought out. That would be significant. WWE has the 90s, but after that, it's up for grabs. And Ring of Honor now going to AEW. By the way, the full press release you can check out over at NoDQ.com to get more details on that. And we will be talking about this more in depth on the No DQ review coming up Thursday evening, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll get the panel on to discuss all the possibilities. And by the way, Tony Khan with a little reference to Shane McMahon. He said it's not Shane as the new owner of Ring of Honor. It is indeed him. So that was a little nod there to WWE buy-in WCW back in 2001. And again, stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest regarding this sale. AEW, Tony Khan, Ring of Honor, what's next? Only time will tell. And we had our first match of the evening, which was a little nod to Ring of Honor. We had Christopher Daniels making his first appearance in about 8 months in AEW, going up against Bryan Danielson. Danielson versus Daniels. They fought in Ring of Honor. In fact, they were the first pay-per-view main event for Ring of Honor. So this was a nice little full circle here for these guys. Daniels, he had an injured eye, so he basically was competing with one good eye. And they did the code of honor, the handshake before the match. Daniels was looking pretty impressive in the opening moments. In fact, he did some jumping jacks to taunt Bryan, hit a moonsault to the outside, but eventually Bryan got the upper hand, worked over Daniels for a while. But then Daniels made his comeback. He got a few near falls on Bryan. They traded blows back and forth. And then Daniels went for the best moonsault ever. But Bryan was able to catch him and turned it into the triangle sleeper. Referee stopped the match. Daniels was out. Danielson, your winner. And then after the match, Bryan got on the mic and talked about their history in Ring of Honor and said that back then they started and ended matches with a handshake. So he went over to Daniels, held up his hand, but then swerved. Bryan said they're not in Ring of Honor anymore. This is AEW, and it's time to kick somebody's head in. And that's what he did. Nice little heel swerve there by Bryan. But the fans had to pop for it. They cheered Bryan kicking in this guy's head. And then Bryan said that Sunday, Revolution, it will be Jon Moxley's head that gets stomped in. Moxley made his way down to the ring, and he was impressed. He said Bryan is better than ever, but Moxley said that he will walk through bullets this Sunday at Revolution. He will pick up the win. He said his story is just starting, and the first chapter will be written on Sunday, and it is going to be written in blood. Good segment here. I enjoyed it. Nice, intense promo from Moxley to set up their match. Pretty much guaranteeing that there will be blood. And I'm thinking it's not going to be the only match with blood this Sunday. If you like blood and guts, AEW will definitely be delivering, I think, this Sunday at Revolution. Next up, we had the Casino Tag Team Royale, basically a Tag Team Royal Rumble match. FTR, they were the first team out. Second team out, Top Flight. Darius Martin is back, reunited with Dante Martin. Good to see him back. He was out of action for about a year. Good to see him back in the ring, and they had a hot start. They took control. And then we had the Acclaimed come out as the third team. And there's a funny line here from Max Caster. He said that the guys in the ring, they are less popular than Glenn Jacobs' tweets. That was a good line. And for those of you that missed it, Glenn Jacobs, a.k.a. Kane, a.k.a. the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, went on Twitter over the weekend and, well, some people were not happy with what he wrote. Anyways, if you're curious about that, head over to NoDQ.com. You can check out what he wrote about and how people reacted to that. We had more teams coming out: Dark Order, Butcher Blade, Varsity Blondes, Bear Country, Santana, and Ortiz. And we had the Wingmen, Best Friends, more Dark Order, Young Bucks, the Ass Boys, and they were quickly eliminated by FTR. We had a few more teams coming out: Brock Anderson and Lee Johnson. We had 2.0. I think they were the final team to come out for this match. And then we had Dan Hassan show up, and he popped up from under the ring. He put a curse on Evil Uno to help his buddies and the Best Friends. And more teams started getting eliminated. We came down to the final three teams: Top Flight, FTR, and the Young Bucks. Both Bucks stayed in the match, and it came down to just Dax Harwood and Darius Martin for their respective teams. Then we had Red Dragon, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish show up. They distracted Dax, and that led to the Bucks super kicking Dax out of the ring. Darius Martin was all by himself, but he stayed in it, and Matt ended up accidentally eliminating Nick. It was down to Matt and Darius. They went back and forth, but in the end, Matt did eliminate Darius to pick up the win for his team. No real surprise here. I pretty much figured it would be the Young Bucks winning this match, as we talked about on the predictions video. By the way, if you missed it, the AEW Revolution predictions video is up on the channel. Check that out. After the match was over, we had a little bit of a face-off between the Bucks and Red Dragon. And then the champs, the Jurassic Express, they showed up. Triple threat tag team title match coming up this Sunday. Should be a hell of a match. We had a backstage promo from Chris Jericho talking about his match with Eddie Kingston. Said that Kingston is finally becoming the star Jericho knew he would be. However, Jericho does not think Kingston has what it takes. However, he will show respect if Kingston wins, but he doesn't think it's going to happen. And he says when it doesn't happen, he will tell Kingston to GFY. You know, that's Jericho's new catchphrase, that and the Influencer. Santana and Ortiz gave Jericho a couple of fist bumps. Are they going to screw him over on Sunday? Guess we'll see. We had CM Punk come down to the ring for a promo to hype up his match with MJF, and he was wearing a white t-shirt. Typically when this happens, either you're Bryan Danielson just not wanting to wear a t-shirt with a logo, or if you're wearing a white t-shirt, there's going to be blood, because that is a good visual. You have the white t-shirt with the blood all over it. CM Punk talked about how he wasn't sure if he's the good guy or the bad guy. He thought he was the good guy, but then MJF poured his heart and soul out last week. Punk said that it took courage to say what MJF said, but he still wonders if he's being gaslit. He doesn't think MJF was lying. However, he questions MJF's sincerity. And CM Punk brought up how there's a photo of him with Steve Austin when CM Punk was young. And when Steve Austin so-called took his ball and went home, CM Punk did not complain about it. He said that MJF has done some awful things in AEW, mocking Brian Pillman and Pillman Jr., talking about Darby Allin's uncle. He wanted to have a conversation with MJF. So he invited MJF to the ring, and MJF just stood there and listened. CM Punk talked about all the bad things he did in WWE, things like taking Paul Bear's ashes and dumping them on The Undertaker, and pouring alcohol down an alcoholic's throat, and making Jeff Hardy leave and all that stuff. All the bad things CM Punk did over the years. Punk said this and said that MJF is full of hate, just like CM Punk used to be, and it's not good. Punk said that it will burn MJF up. Punk said that he woke up and he asked himself, is he the good guy or the bad guy? And he realized that he's trying to be the good guy. And at that point, he offered a handshake to MJF. MJF thought for a second and then went in for a hug. Yes, MJF wanted to hug his idol. CM Punk wasn't sure what to make of it, but then gave him a hug back. And you all knew where this was going. They're hugging here. You know this isn't going to end happy. And sure enough, MJF with the low blow to CM Punk. We had the Pinnacle members come down. We had this big beatdown. There was the dog collar with the chain brought out. MJF hit the heat seeker. He grabbed the Dynamite diamond ring. He hit CM Punk with it. And sure enough, CM Punk busted open wearing the Crimson Mask. And as Michael Wayne said, CM Punk also doesn't wear a cup. Same thing as AJ Styles. You know, maybe it's a Ring of Honor thing. Those guys from Ring of Honor, they have honor, so they don't wear cups. But anyways, MJF beat the crap out of CM Punk. They put the dog collar on him, and they were hanging him on the outside of the ring. And MJF called Punk a stupid old man. Stupid. And then made a reference to a line CM Punk said in Ring of Honor about the devil. And MJF said that he is the devil himself. And finally, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, and Sting ran down to make the save after all the damage had been done. Maybe they were way in the catacombs of the building, and it took them a while to get out there. But I guess, hey, CM Punk does have a few friends, so good for him. Nick Lavin with a $2.79 super chat. Thank you, Nick. Says, the hug and low blow, Jericho and Michaels feels 2003. Yes, very similar to that moment. I know exactly what you're talking about with that one from WrestleMania 19. DJW with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, segment of the night, period. I agree with you on that. This was a hell of a segment. Don't think we're seeing any kind of double turn. Although, I'd love to see MJF just drive CM Punk to the point where CM Punk completely snaps and goes into that dark place. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I'd like to see it. I'm still thinking CM Punk picks up the win here because MJF looked really strong and made it look like he's got the psychological advantage on CM Punk. So regardless of what happens on Sunday, I'm thinking CM Punk picks up the win. I'm sticking with that prediction that Punk will get his hand raised. But MJF, he'll get his moment one day. He's gonna be at the top. It's just a matter of time. Dylan sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Dylan. I appreciate it. Says, been loving this MJF Punk feud since the start. One of the best angles I've ever seen in AEW. Signing Punk was totally worth it. Feud of the year. It's definitely shaping up to be the feud of the year, and there's only bigger things to come for both guys, you know, whether it's CM Punk versus Hangman Adam Page or MJF versus Page. You know, one or both of them will be in the world title picture at some point, and it's going to be a big deal. And they can always revisit this feud too. I mean, this could be a feud that lasts for years. This could be AEW's Steve Austin versus The Rock, perhaps. You never know. Sun Goshiku said that the devil line was also used at the end of the 1995 movie, The Usual Suspects. So thank you for that, Sun. Thank you for pointing that out. And Walter Cruz says MJF has main eventer written all over him. All right, now we'll move on. We had Ricky Starks backstage confronting Keith Lee, said that Lee might not make it to Revolution. Keith Lee is going to have a match on a live edition of Rampage coming up. And you know what this means for those of you that have been following along on the channel. When Rampage is live, I'll be recapping it. This Friday night, the SmackDown and Rampage recap stream will start at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. I will recap both shows this week since Rampage is live. Tune in for that. And again, if you're liking the video, please do me a favor, give it a like on YouTube. The likes really do help as far as letting YouTube know that it's a video that people are interested in watching. Definitely helps out. Give it a like, and if you can, share a link to it on a social media page, share it on a wrestling page, share it to anybody who watches wrestling. Every little bit of word of mouth goes a long way. Thank you guys for that. And moving on here, we had Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter versus Thunder Rosa and Mercedes Martinez. Right at that 9:15, 9:30 time slot. They always do this. They rarely change it up. They rarely have the women's match take place at a different time period, and they rarely do two women's matches. So hopefully we'll get to see that change in the coming weeks. This was an odd one. This was an odd match, and I'll tell you why here. It was going pretty standard. They worked over Mercedes Martinez for a while. Rebel was interfering during the match, and we got Thunder Rosa getting her hands on Britt Baker, flipped off Britt, slapped her. They traded some shots, and Jamie tried to help out her partner but was unsuccessful. And then Thunder Rosa pinned the world champ, the women's champion, Britt Baker, with the Thunder Driver. Yes, the champion lost going into the pay-per-view. Kind of a WWE move here to have the champion lose like this when it wasn't necessary. Thunder Rosa, already the number one contender, and AEW does a good job of setting up the number one contender. So there really was no need for Thunder Rosa to beat the champion. No reason. And keep in mind, Thunder Rosa won that lights out match last year. She's already beaten Thunder Rosa before. So I really did not understand this. This was an unusually odd booking decision from AEW to have Thunder Rosa beat Britt Baker. I thought Jamie Hayter would take the fall, or maybe Britt Baker would pin Mercedes Martinez or something like that. Makes me wonder now if Britt's retaining the title. I was initially going with Thunder Rosa to win the women's title, but now I'm not so sure because you made your champion look weak here. Now maybe Thunder Rosa beats Britt Baker again, but then Britt looks pretty weak. Britt winning, that's 50-50 booking. So yeah, I thought it was an odd decision here to build up this match. And now I'm not so sure. Maybe that was their goal. Maybe they think that wrestling fans think now that Britt's gonna keep her title. Maybe that's the thought process here. I don't know. Very interesting how this played out. I guess I'll stick with my prediction. Thunder Rosa wins the title, but I'm not so sure now. We had Wardlow versus Cesar Bonani, and this was a very much a squash match. Wardlow did the powerbomb symphony. What am I, Scott Steiner now? Sympathy. The symphony powerbombed him a bunch of times, got the quick win. And then afterwards, Sean Spears was going to use the chair, but Wardlow stopped him. A little bit more of that babyface tease for Wardlow. And we had a backstage promo, backstage somewhere in the catacombs. The House of Black, the 3 members with Buddy Murphy added to the mix. They basically said that they do not cast judgment, but they seek the truth. And the truth is, they are the house, and the house always wins. Promo was fine. And then we had MJF confronting Wardlow backstage. MJF was changing his mind. He said if Wardlow wins the ladder match, the Face of the Revolution ladder match, Wardlow will get to keep the TNT title. And then MJF had to add the line, not like you're going to win it anyways. Wardlow said that's because he's been busy helping MJF win all the time. And then MJF got offended by that, and he said, don't mistake his kindness for weakness. Basically, without him, Wardlow is nothing. And now I'm wondering if Wardlow's going to win. I felt like Wardlow was the most logical pick, but I was thinking, you know what? Maybe they'll go in a different direction and have somebody like Will Hobbs win the match. But now I'm thinking Wardlow wins the match. And as Jose Garza says, MJF slapping Wardlow convinced me Wardlow will win on Sunday, win the title, and then MJF screws him over and takes the title. Yeah, they could end up doing something like that. See, I think CM Punk is going to win, and I think there's going to be a little detour. Before MJF goes for the world title, I think we're going to see Wardlow versus MJF as the next program, and CM Punk's going to go for the world title first. Maybe Punk wins the title from Hangman Adam Page, and then MJF eventually gets his opportunity at CM Punk for the world title. I mean, there's a lot of different ways it can go. And maybe Punk puts over Adam Page and MJF eventually faces Adam Page for the title. But yeah, I could see Punk winning, and MJF doesn't get the main event spot quite yet. He's still got to get through Wardlow first. We then had our main event match of the evening, 6-man tag team match, trios match. Maybe there's a trios title coming. Tony Khan, during a media call, seemed to tease that it might be happening at some point. We had the world champ, Adam Page, teaming up with Dark Order members John Silver and Alex Reynolds up against the Undisputed Era, Adam Cole and Red Dragon. And they did the typical start where it's teased that Page and Cole are going to go at it, but Cole quickly tags out. We saw the same thing on Raw with Becky quickly tagging out instead of fighting Bianca Belair. But eventually, we got Cole and Page in the mix. Cole tagged in after Red Dragon did some damage to Page, but Page was able to make his comeback. Him and Cole went back and forth. Things started to break down. Reynolds tagged back in, but he ultimately got pinned with the boom from Adam Cole. And then after the match was over, the fight continued. Page attempted to hit the buckshot lariat, but he got overwhelmed. 3-on-1 attack. And Page was taped with duct tape to the top rope. And he was forced to watch as Silver and Reynolds just got destroyed by the Undisputed Era. And they hit a bunch of super kicks to Page. Adam Cole did, and then he grabbed the title, placed it on Page's shoulder, and said that the title belongs to him. This was a good match, good angle, but man, like it just feels secondary next to CM Punk and MJF. Like it doesn't feel like the main event. And I believe Tony Khan did say during the media call that the world title match will be the main event. You know, they are very they are very insistent on making the world title matches be the main event match of the pay-per-views. So I suspect that will be the case on Sunday. That will be the main event. But I feel like the match that people really want to see, I mean, there's a lot of them, but I think the match that people are most anticipating is CM Punk versus MJF. And after that angle, like, yeah, there's really no way Cole can get that kind of heat that MJF got. And even Brian, I mean, Brian got a pop when he beat the crap out of Daniel. So nobody can get that heat that MJF has with CM Punk right now. Like that's the really hot feud going into this pay-per-view. DJW sent in a $5 super chat, says, you forgot about the Jade and Ty Conti face-to-face. Didn't nobody care about that jiu-jitsu shit? Jade's presence is bar none, but I see why it's forgettable. Yeah, I didn't even write it down because it was one of those segments that was like 10 seconds long. It's like one of those blink and you miss it things. I mean, it literally just flew by, and I pretty much forgot about it. I was going to write something down, and I'm like, well, it took up so little TV time, I'm not going to bother. But yeah, technically I did miss it. Didn't really do anything to make me want to see the match or anything. You know, just something to remind people, hey, they're having a match at the pay-per-view. But yeah, whatever. And Nick Lavin says the world title match should always be the main event. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, you want the world title match to be your most anticipated match. When the world title match is second fiddle or even third fiddle, then, you know, something's not right. But all in all, very good show from Dynamite, and the announcement from Tony Khan, I think it's a pretty big deal, and it could potentially lead to even bigger things for AEW. I'm sure we'll be talking more about that on the No DQ review, so stay tuned for that. All in all, I would definitely recommend this show. Worth checking out. Very solid build-up for the pay-per-view. The CM Punk MJF segment, definitely a must-watch. And the Tony Khan announcement, Danielson versus Daniels, was a fun match. The tag team Casino Royale pretty much went how I expected it, but still a fun match nonetheless. Main event was good. So very solid show. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I really do appreciate your viewership and support as always. And stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. And remember to say yes to NoDQ.com. See you guys next time.